From our brand new studios here in Mean Green Village, welcome to part of the official Mean Green podcast. Zach Babb alongside Hank Dickenson, and it's been a fun day here at North Texas. And we have the man himself, the Vice President and Director of Athletics, Jared Mosley, with us. And Jared, it's been a great day. This whole new studio, welcome, by the way. Thanks for helping us break in this spot that's really just a small iota of a lot of great new things and changes happening here at North Texas. But you're our first guest in a revamped space that's really, really cool, and we're enjoying it. And thanks for joining us here to kick all this off and wrap up what's been a great day for Mean Green Athletics.
No, always enjoy it, and I think anytime you can start a day like we did today, have a great lunch, and then wrap it up with just some hopefully good context and feedback for our fan base and alumni. Just super excited to be here.
This will be a lot like 60 Minutes. We're going to really pepper you hard here, but you've had a full day of addressing some of your great supporters. I mean, the people that stepped up and gave $500,000 or more to make your vision for the expansion of the athletic facility very encouraging. Obviously, you know the work's not done, but what a great first step. And when you talk about firsts in athletics, that's something that coaches always tell kids. If we hadn't won a championship or we haven't done something, you never forget the first time. And you had a first this year that was really a long time in coming, the first sellout. And I know, obviously, you're the leader, but you're really proud of your staff and the people that put really everything into something that had to happen to prove to everybody this can happen on a regular basis.
Yeah, no, our staff did a great job. And listen, you just had some good fortune and momentum that leading into that game against South Florida that certainly played in your favor. And I think anytime you start a season, like you never know fully what to expect. Like we think we have a good team. You get to watch them in fall ball. You think things are coming together, but it's just, to go through a football season, you do have to have a little bit of good fortune and luck. You have to keep people healthy. And it was just fun that stretch of the season you could just feel every week just a little more chatter, a little more excitement and energy. And our team did a phenomenal job really pulling out all the stops to see if we could get that done. And it was fun to see, just some of the stuff into those last 3 or 4 days. Like it was incredible, the reaction as we started to show kind of where we're at, the numbers, and people could see this could happen and wanted to be a part of it. So it was, it's a night I'll never forget. Like that was probably one of the most electric atmospheres I've ever been a part of. And so, not only do you have the front end and the work that the team and ticketing team, marketing team, advancement did, but then when you've got to put on a show when people get there. And I thought the in-game presentation was awesome too. So it was certainly a night I hope a lot of people never forget.
When you talk about, let's talk about that football season as a whole, because obviously the sellout was a huge part of what that was in terms of the larger success of the football team. I mean, 12 wins, program record. You get your first bowl win in 12 years, almost 12 years to the day. Just that whole season was just such an awesome ride and so much fun to be a part of, and really put a huge spotlight on obviously the football team, but the university as a whole. When you're winning that many games and you're right on the bubble of making the college football playoff and whatnot, that's a lot of eyes on this university for people who, maybe for the first time are looking at, this North Texas, let's look at this school and just talk about the success of the football team, the season as a whole, and what that means to the larger picture of the success of this athletic department and the university.
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing, and we talk about it a lot, like we've had moments of success across our athletic history, have certainly had some stretches in certain sports where things were hitting at a high level. But kind of our goal now is you've got to find a way to sustain it. And it's an interesting environment to try to do that in because, back in the day when you could recruit, retain, there wasn't as much player movement. Like once you kind of had a core and a culture established, it's never easy to win games, but you at least had some momentum from year to year. And so, I think the challenge for us now is how can we capture what we all got to experience last year. And then I think Coach Brown and his new staff have done a fantastic job just kind of retooling not only our roster, but just getting to see day to day, like the intentionality around culture. Like you can't state enough how different that is today from 5 years ago, and just how coaches every year, you think you're talking about it all the time, and and you may not have seniors to just step in and help you with that because it's you've got 50, 60, 70 new faces. But really our goal is how can we put some processes and things in place and consistently try to do that. And similar to the sellout, like the goal should be not that we try to get one a year. How can we turn one into two into three, and be like the top teams in the group of six, where you're selling that, it's just an automatic sellout. Like that's the expectation. And we certainly are in an environment where I think we can do that. It's going to be a lot of hard work, and there's always going to be challenges, but I'm bullish on where we are right now and excited to see where we get going this fall.
Excitement around football is always tangible in this business, especially in Texas. It is the engine that drives the train. But you have personally been incremental in the golden age of Mean Green basketball. Your connections with Grant McCaslin allowed him to emerge here, and obviously he's probably going to be a Hall of Fame head coach, probably win a national championship. You had the foresight to keep Ross Hodge around. He's now at West Virginia. And then you bring in Danielle Robinson, and he was right on the edge of a 20-win season his first year. Coach Burton in women's basketball has totally revised that. So when we talk about excitement, what basketball has done has played a huge part in maybe unearthing some of these new people that you've brought to the plate to have a real tangible interest and be in a position to help you from a donor standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, people want to be a part of a winner, and winning cures a lot of ills and provides you a lot of opportunity. And so it has been exciting. And the thing I'm optimistic about, we've set out and we've had some people who have historically ensured this program could be successful. Some longtime donors who, a dozen to 2 dozen of those individuals who they were really our lifeblood to get us to where we are today. Like, had they not been willing to step in, even in years where it wasn't a lot of fun, and kept continuing to have a belief that we could make this place special, like you don't get to experience that. And it has been fun. I mean, we talked about it a little bit at lunch, but we're finding, a handful every 2 or 3 months of new people that we're able to engage with who have just been disconnected for whatever reason, and do have an interest in figuring out how to plug in and get involved with us. And so I'm still very optimistic that if we can just continue to do the work, process this thing until our list we've got through everybody on the list. Like we're going to have some new folks and new blood here, and it's going to take that for us to get really that next step. And everybody wants to know, well, can we ever someday find ourselves somewhere else? And the only thing we can control and worry about is, are we doing everything with where our feet are planted? And we still have a lot of opportunity in the American Conference to drive a lot of our revenue generation engagement numbers to a level that really starts to make people recognize and eyes pop whenever those opportunities might come down the road. So really the goal, we can have those aspirations out there, but really we've got to tackle today, like what are we doing today to make sure we're maximizing everything we need to position UNT for that opportunity down the road.
Speaking of maximizing everything, just to run it down through all the sports. I mean, we've talked about football and basketball, obviously, but women's golf is sending 2 athletes to the NCAA regionals. Volleyball had its first 20-win season since 2017. Tennis had the most match wins since 2013. So it's just obviously. Football and basketball get a lot of the spotlight when we talk about this stuff, but you're seeing success in every sport on campus at some level.
Yeah, and women's track championship, indoor championship. You've got diving won a conference championship. Yeah, and I think that's the one thing, Hank, when you touched on a little bit earlier, just people coming out of the fold. The beauty is there's excitement. Some people's passion isn't necessarily football or basketball here. Like, we've got letter winners and alumni and people who have connections to a lot of our sports. And so the beauty is there's a lot of ways people can engage. It doesn't just have to be in one or two ways. So, like, it has been fun to see as those programs elevate and have success, to see more people stepping up to support them as well.
And the American Conference has been great for North Texas. When people look at the American, it's right on the edge of being something even bigger. It's kind of that tweener conference that coaches, athletes, everybody look at in a different light. And North Texas has played in a lot of conferences. But since 23, the second highest overall win percentage across all of your sports. So to Zach's point, it's not just the marquee sports that are getting it done. And I know you take a lot of pride in that as a former student athlete.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that I do still get a little bit of frustration from some of our alumni who don't pay attention, because, like, I was at an event a couple of weeks back, and I did have somebody stop me and said, how long and when do you think that, North Texas will be able to compete in the American? And I'm like, we are competing in the American. Like, we've got the second highest win percentage across all of our team sports, and even our individual sports are competing at a high level. And so, I just think there's so much to be proud of in this environment, knowing that we're growing. I mean, we're not getting a full TV distribution at this point. So the day that the TV contract gets renegotiated and we do get a full share, like, that's going to be a significant influx of resources for us. But I'm also mindful, I think people get frustrated and feel like that's not good enough and we should fight for more. It doesn't work that way, one. But two, I think when you get the opportunity to really reflect back, like, we knew going into this what the TV revenue was going to be. And so it's not a surprise. So we've planned for that, and we've got a plan. But it certainly is a lot better than where we were previously. Like, we're 4 to 5x of what we were getting in TV revenue. And I think the visibility, more importantly than the money, the visibility that we get being associated with ESPN, and we've seen that bear out in every metric possible. Like, that exposure we now have on a national stage, and the ease of our alumni base to engage with us because they know where we're playing. Used to, you had to go get out your color-coded sheet to figure out whether you were on a streaming, a linear, Facebook Live, a CBS, whatever that platform was. So, all of that said, I do think the American's been a tremendous boom for our athletic program and university, and I do feel it's positioned to continue to be that guiding light in the Group of Six.
We're going to pivot a little bit and get into name, image, and likeness and revenue share, because I feel like people hear about this but maybe aren't educated to the level they need to be, and obviously you're sitting right in the middle of that fire. But before we go to that, a lot of the people that are in this room right now are a part of your creative content team. And between your communication staff and those folks that handle so much of the messaging, I personally have seen a massive difference in how people can digest and understand and appreciate what's going on. Just speak to the talented folks you have in that department. And the metrics this year were incredibly impressive.
No, I mean, that team does a fantastic job, and they're behind the scenes. A lot of people don't get to see these people doing great work and really pouring into what we do here. But if you don't have somebody who knows how to capture and tell the story, then a lot of our messaging can land flat. And so, like, I love just the willingness to try new things. I love I mean, you look at this studio here, like, this happened because people cared enough to want to see it happen and did the work themselves. They weren't waiting on somebody else to come and do the work for them. And so I have a ton of appreciation and respect just for our entire creative and comm staff, because when you look at really, if people aren't here every day, there's only one way for them to learn a little bit and get a look under the hood, and that's the work that this group does sometimes during the day, sometimes at night, all over the weekends. Like it's not an easy place to plant your feet, but they're super talented and gifted. And when you look at what we've been able to do on social, and you look at what our metrics have been, even through viewership, web engagements, like all that stuff is important, and you've got to have a good plan. You've got to execute at a really high level so people continue to want it, and they've done a great job kind of building that demand and expectation with our fan base.
So they help educate all the time about successes and what's happening with teams, but you're in a position where you have to educate about NIL and revenue share. Let's start with this question. For those that are listening in, what is the difference between NIL and revenue share?
So revenue share is ultimately funds that come through our revenue stream. So ticket sales, licensing, anything that we generate revenue from. Revenue share is just an amount of money. NCAA dictates up to, I think this next year is going to be roughly $22.5 million that you can divvy out to student athletes. And so you do have that cap. So if it's coming through, our coffers, we have a percentage that we have to allocate that out. And so as an institution and working with our general counsel, we felt like putting that money back into the programs and the percentages in which it came in is the most reasonable, least risky proposition. Like, I don't get to just pick one sport because I like it more than another and say, you're going to get more. Like, it's based on the percentages in which those revenues came in. So that's revenue share. NIL is really leveraging third-party opportunities for name, image, and likeness with student athletes. And so we're not at the cap, but our student athletes, a lot of them, we have a number of student athletes doing really well in this space. They're working with businesses to help promote a business. So whether that's commercials, appearances, autograph sessions, social media posts, like the NIL stuff has to be there has to be a business purpose. Like, and all of those, if they're above $600 in name, image, and likeness, all of those deals have to go through a clearinghouse with the CSC, and they either get approved or they don't. And so, you read a lot of the stats on how many deals have been approved, how many are kind of waiting, how many got denied. But really what they're looking is a student athlete, one, if it's above $600, is it at market value? So, and is what they're being asked to provide in exchange for getting those dollars, does it make reasonable sense, and is it for a business purpose? Those that don't are typically larger deals, and so then, businesses have to go back and rework maybe more appearances or more things to make the math work. But so you have rev shares internal driven that's coming through our buckets that we divvy out based on percentage, and then with the NIL, it's purely kind of third-party business to business. Now, I will tell, I think it's important because our Green Lights funds, which we started a little over a year ago, each sport has a Green Lights fund, and that is for donors who want to contribute to a sport that they're passionate about. We then can designate those dollars in those sports to coaches to then leverage in rev share. So it kind of falls into and that one's not based on a percentage because it's donor driven and it's dedicated to something the donor's requesting. Then we're able to channel it right to that sport. So growing our Green Lights funds are important because that's really, we can only do so much as revenues increase to push that out. The biggest gains are if we have the masses who can come alongside us and help supplement that, and that's been a huge perk for us over the last 18 months as we just try to keep up with what teams in the American are doing.
Now, within that, I think you bring up a very important point because, within the world of NIL and within the world of revenue sharing, and you bring up the Greenlight funds, it's like if fans, if alumni, donors, whoever it may be, want to support in some way or another, they can support in a variety of different ways, different sports, things of that nature. Just expound on that a little bit more of how fans can get involved in ways that they want to get involved.
Yeah, and listen, we get from people all the time, I get probably one of the most asked questions is, what's most important. Like, where do you want me to give? And I tell people, I want you to give where you're most excited. Like, I don't want you to give to what I tell you is important to us. I want you to give to what's important for you, so you continue to feel good about what you're giving and the ways you're impacting our programs. And so we kind of view this in several buckets. I think you've got, Mean Green Scholarship Fund, that's still, we have over a $6.5 million scholarship bill every year to provide scholarships to student athletes. And so, if they are passionate about that, they can give to the scholarship fund. If they want to give to revenue share and allow coaches more resources to recruit talent and try to retain talent, they can give sport specific, or if they just give to the general Green Lights Fund. So we do have a number of donors who do that and don't really care what sport. When it comes to the big bucket that's not designated to a program, we divvy it out the same way we do, the money that comes through our channels. And then, I think the other day we celebrated the other way that people can give, and we celebrated a groundbreaking today is through capital projects. And not everybody's bricks and mortar, but that doesn't go away in what we're trying to do to build a high quality, high experience for our student athletes. And so, I liken it to a puzzle. College athletics has all these buckets and pieces in it, and when you open that box and you put all the pieces out there, like, you've got to complete the puzzle. Like, having one or two of these things that you can't do or that you're not going to tackle, like, it leaves an incomplete picture there. And so I tell people, give where you're excited, because I think that's where you get the most joy out of giving. But then, there's lots of ways to have impact in what we do in college athletics. So I encourage people not to worry so much about, where we feel that should go. Like, find something that excites you and jump on board.
And you've just gone through a full menu of opportunities. So sometimes fans at this level will say, well, they've priced me out, NIL and all that, we're not going to be able to help. That's not true. There's so many ways that you can afford to make a difference, and you've already gone through a bunch. Sports-specific opportunities, definitely the NIL is going to be there for a while. And it brings me, before we go to some questions that came in on Twitter, you've been the athletic director since December of 22. Prior to that, you were Ren Baker's right-hand man. You've experienced a global pandemic. And then coming out of that, you've experienced the biggest seismic change in college athletics. As you sit there and talk to your colleagues and do the kind of networking I know you do, what are your thoughts on the next 5 to 10 years? What is the future of college athletics? People always want to know what an AD thinks about that.
I wish I knew the answer. I'd have a lot more good feelings about just where we're headed and how we get there. It's an interesting time just because there's so much right now. I think a lot of people are trying to figure it out. They're trying to put some guardrails and some things in place. I think our biggest challenge in college athletics right now, when you just look at, we've all agreed to be a part of the NCAA. Like, that's not something somebody made us do. Yet we do have institutions in our ecosystem who, every time something doesn't line up competitively for them to get an advantage or win at a high level, they just want to circumvent the rules we agreed to from day one, or they want to get their state attorney generals involved and sue the NCAA or sue this decision, or, and so I just think the litigation piece of this, it's why there's got to be, unfortunately, probably some type of congressional involvement to put the types of protections in place for us to at least be able to enforce rules. And I don't think that's unreasonable. I think every sports league in the world has parameters that everybody's held to and accountability in place. It's just hard in this environment when every time you do go to enforce the things we said we want to do or that the House settlement said we could do, like, you've got to get that settled first. And I'll be honest, I think one of the biggest things, and, who knows where the leadership and the structure of the NCAA and others goes. Like, I don't feel great about long-term predictions there and what that might look like. But I do think, if you're asking me at North Texas, what would I like to see? I think it's reasonable to say I don't necessarily care if there's a cap. If P4 programs want to just max out and not have any limits on what they can pay a student athlete, more power to them. Like, nobody can sustain what we're doing today, so I think it settles. But if they want to do that, go ahead and get after it. I think the challenging part that I wish we could get to a place is there's got to be some parameters around player movement. Like, restrictions on transfers. Like, I think the conversations around 5 years to play 5 seasons right now, I think that's great. It limits people having to get waivers and go through all this nonsense to get another year. You get 5 years to play 5. If you get hurt 3 of them, too bad. You got 5 years to play 5. And that's a good starting point. And then I think if you could give a student athlete one free transfer and another transfer if they graduate, that gives a individual a chance to go to 3 schools in 5 years. Like, I don't think that's unreasonable. And I think if you can get to that place, what it does allow is for an element of retention. But when you don't have that, if I'm a student athlete today, I'm going to do exactly like they do. I'm going to test the market to see what I can get. Like, and when you can just do that year after year after year after year, that's the hard part at our level to try to manage and sustain. And to be honest, it's not just us. Like, if you look at, the P4 programs are losing the same number of players. They're just going to a peer or somewhere else. So I do think, if there could be a focus, there's a lot of other things. I think there needs to be regulations around, agents and people representing these student athletes. Like, I think that's a grimy game right now, and I feel for student athletes in that space. I think there's a lot of other things we would shoot for, but if you're asking me the kind of the cornerstones, like, if they could solve that, I think we could figure out a path at North Texas and in the American and landscape of FBS football to continue to be successful.
On that topic, with all the constant change and things of that nature, I want to jump into a couple questions we got on Twitter and X. And this is a perfect one to start off. How do you stay sane given all the chaos on a day-to-day basis?
Do you stay
sane within this world? Because it's a crazy world, and there's so many things constantly changing. How do you manage it just from your own personal perspective on a day-to-day basis?
I've been in this long enough. Like, I don't take myself too serious, and you do have to have thick skin. I think in today's day and age, no different than our student athletes. Like, social media gives everybody a mic and an opinion, and I think the tough part is, it's hard. Like, anybody who says they can just completely not pay attention to that, they're lying, because it's a part of what we do to take a pulse and understand where we need to redirect, educate, go visit with somebody. But I think for me, like, I'm at a place now. It was harder for me as an AD when my kids were younger to balance this job. Like, that was extremely challenging when you're trying to raise a family, 3 kids, and you've got events and games and this and that. And I would say now I feel like I do weather this a little better than I did probably a decade ago, just because the stage of life I'm in. But I enjoy, I get out and golf when I can. It's not a lot, but if I can get out and do that, I love, got some great friends in the area. So I'm a social guy when, as long as I'm not having to talk about work, which most of my closest friends don't have affiliation with UNT, so I can go have a dinner and not have to talk about necessarily what's going on here. But I've got a few outlets that I do enjoy, but at the end of the day, I got into this because of I know the impact it had on me. Like, I think about, as I've shared my story, growing up in Lockney, Texas, a little bitty town of a little over 2,000 people. Dad was a farmer, mom was a teacher, and just never in a million years would I dream that my decision to go play basketball at Abilene Christian University and then set off in this industry that I would be where I'm at today. And so, I want every student athlete in 20 years post-graduation to look up and be like, man, the experiences that this opportunity provided me and how it's changed my life and where I am today and the impact I can have in whatever field I choose to go after, like that's what I love every day. And I've said this before, ADs, coaches, they say there's 2 kinds of us, those that have been fired or those that will be fired. There may be a day I get fired from this job, but I can tell you it won't be because we didn't pay attention to the student-athlete experience. Like, sometimes you can control wins and losses, and sometimes the chips don't fall where you want, but we're not going to have a culture that's sour and not serving people, and we're not going to have programs in place that support student-athletes. And I sleep well every night. If we're tackling that, the rest is going to take care of itself. And so I think part of it, you have to just realize while it's sports, it has a huge impact. Like, you can't get too hung up all the time in the results and the scoreboard, because if you do live by that, it's a miserable life for most people. But so we try to find a good balance.
I don't want you to get a big head because you just talked about how much you love it here, but one of our questions ends by saying you are by far the best athletic director in school history. Now, that's very nice. Their handle is poo-poo pee-pee, so you've got to take that with a grain of salt. But you just talked about your love for the place and your love for getting involved. That brings us to elected official Drew Springer, who asks, what are the odds of you going shirtless again in the upcoming football season?
That was a one-time thing. It was certainly in the moment, and yeah, that will not happen again. It's definitely not being planned. If it happens, it'll be because these creative guys, probably talked me into it, our marketing team. But I mean, the fun part of last year, and it was again, not taking myself too serious, but just the opportunities to engage with students, like. Our best future fans are the ones that are sitting there on that side of the stadium having a great experience while they're on this campus. And if that's a good experience and there's something memorable that takes place or something that stands out, and, when they graduate, they come back, I'm amazed. I'm super appreciative, because it's hard when you start out in a career to be thinking about, I want to be a season ticket holder. Like, you're trying to start a family or provide for your family and entry-level jobs, and you just have a lot of challenges. But I love it when I see 24 to 28-year-old alums catch me in the Hub Club, and they're just talking about how excited they are, and they remembered being a student, but they love being a season ticket holder now. Like, that's the transition we want to make. So if there are any other wild things that I can do to connect with students and just make things fun and exciting, I'm not marking that off the list, but shirtless is probably marked off the list.
What do you got? You got another one?
I have a good concluding question, but I'm wondering if there's any others you want to get to.
Well, the only one that I'm curious about, this is a good question. A few years ago, and this has happened on and off again through the years, the athletic department held a garage sale of used and surplus athletic gear. Wildly popular with hardcore fans, and curious if that's something you would think about bringing back. And I know you've got the best equipment guy in the business, Mike Villa, so if you put his hand in it, it'll turn out great.
Yeah, no, I think we will in time. To keep in mind, we had, I think, a number of years where they didn't do one, so we had a lot of surplus stack up and recycled equipment, jerseys, that sort of thing. I would say, you kind of need to get to a place where you have enough inventory built up to do a garage sale. Right. Like, the last thing I want to do is throw just a handful of things and have a lot of people show up, and then people are mad because they didn't get a chance. And I will say this too, and not saying we weren't good stewards of our equipment in the past, but I just think a lot of what we do now, we leverage a lot of our equipment buys and those things for donor gifts, for the people who have done certain things to present them with a recognition of some kind. And so we try to repurpose a lot of that stuff when we can, but we will have one at some point in the future, just as we accumulate enough to make it worth everybody's time.
Final question, and this one's from me, not a Twitter question. I'm just curious because I come from I think, a unique perspective of a lot of the people in this room, and that I'm an alumni myself. As I've watched in the last 11 years that I've been around North Texas now, since I got here as a student and now getting to work in the athletic department and working with Learfield and things of that nature, I have seen this thing grow at an incredible, not only an incredible pace, but in a incredibly good direction. When I got here, it was obviously before you and Ren were here, and now I've seen how it's changed since Ren was here and since you've carried the torch from him. Since you've got here and you've seen things change, and like Hank said, going through a global pandemic, NIL and revenue share becoming a thing, and as you kind of look towards the future as well, what are you personally, and maybe this is a big question, but what are you personally most proud of from your time here, and what do you really see North Texas doing as we continue along this march and following up with a lot of really good things that have happened here that I can speak for myself just being here for the last 11 years?
I think that's a tough question. There's a lot I'm proud of. I'm proud of our. There's certain moments that I could point to that I think resonate with a lot of people. Like there's achievements like, when I got here and in my press conference, I said we were going to get the athletic center expansion done. And I had people tell me there is no way y'all can raise that kind of money. Like I had people who had been invested in this program kind of question whether we could do that. And our team went out in less than, we're 3 years in and we're about to break ground on phase 1 and we're going to plow through phase 2. I think there's so many of those things we could point to and say we're proud of that moment, but I'm most proud of our people. I think the thing that impacts this place the most are the people that carry out every job that happens behind the scenes. And not everybody gets to be seen. Not everybody has the platform. Not everybody's visible in what they do. But every person we have, from the people in our business office to the folks in this creative studio, our academic staff, our concessions team, everybody plays a part in the experience that fans and student athletes get here. And I'm most proud of, because I think it's our strongest thing, is our culture. I'm proud of, one of my favorite things is when we show up to, we do happy hours and socials monthly, but to show up and to see cross units, everybody hanging out together, having a good time, even away from work, when we're in opportunities where people are huddled together and enjoy being around each other. And I think, that's probably what I'm most proud of, because I think when you take that level of care and concern for your job and you love what you do, the end product and impact you have for the hundreds of thousands of alumni who get to experience that, and the thousands of student athletes that roll through here, that's what it's all about. And so that's probably what I'm most proud of, and it's probably what I enjoy the most. These jobs are hard. Everybody in college athletics has these jobs, while some people think they're glorious and fun. Hank's been at it, and Hank lived through it, so he could tell the war stories. But they're hard jobs to begin with, and so if you're doing a hard job and you don't like the people that you're working with, that's a miserable place. And I've got friends and colleagues who are at miserable places, and it's why would you want to do that? So for us to have the best impact possible, you got to have people who show up every day and do their very best at what God's given them to do. And so that's probably what I'm most proud of, because I think that's ultimately what has allowed us to be successful. Success is the byproduct of having people who care and want to provide significance back to other people.
Well, and to wrap it up, really, a good athletic department is a family. You're going to have some disagreements, but you're all going to be pulling the rope in the same direction. And the hours you put in obviously means you're close to those people. And so today you took a lot of time to be very transparent, to be very communicative with your donor base, but to also celebrate what you and your staff have put together. I know the summer is not downtime. As a matter of fact, it's very busy on any campus. But as you get ready for Neil Brown and a new football season, hey, continued success. And I think everybody just felt like last year across the board was kind of what North Texas needs to look like all the time, and you've got it in that position. And now what you need is the kind of support that you're starting to really garner. So congrats on the success. Thanks for letting us be a part of this.
Yeah.
And I hope you get some really good feedback from everything you did today.
No, and I appreciate it. And I just want to say before we sign off, I appreciate all you guys do. The team behind the team, and again, the coverage you guys give to our student athletes and the stories you get to tell is really important. And Hank, just your fingerprints are all over this athletic program, having served a couple of decades here, and so it's just been fun to know we've got people who this place means a lot to them continue to tell that story. So appreciate you both.
Well, we both care, and we both are very impressed by everything going on. So thanks again.
Yeah, appreciate it, Jared. Thanks for breaking in this new studio space with us as well for this revamped Mean Green podcast we got going.
Appreciate it. Thanks. Go Mean Green.